The following podcast contains spoilers for 1922 and Mr. Nobody. You have been warned.
Welcome back, everybody, to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Button, alongside here with, what is his name? Oh, you know it, it's Miguel Magusto.
Oh, yeah. How's it going, Glenn?
It's going as good as it can go.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question.
I got, hopefully, an answer.
Caleb Smith is the main character in which 2015 movie? Now, I'm actually proud. This one's a little bit of a tough one.
I don't even know who Caleb Smith is.
Well, it's the character's name. Would you like a multiple choice?
Yeah, give it a multiple choice.
Inside Out, The Martian, Ex Machina, or The Revenant?
Is it Ex Machina?
It is.
The two of them had Domhnall Gleeson in it, so.
Yeah. His name's Caleb Smith, I guess.
Is there multiple choice on the cards, or did you just throw them out there?
Yeah, it's multiple choice on the card. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's that was a little more difficult than the past couple weeks, so that's good.
I'm just picturing Oscar Isaac going, "Come on, Caleb.
Come on,
just
Caleb.
Get with the program, Caleb."
Yeah. So how you been? What have you been up to?
Not much. Same as always. I haven't watched any movies, so I can't brag about my 9 or so movies that I saw the week prior. My hand's a little bit more healed up, so I can do things now. So
that's good.
So
well, I saw a few movies. I saw first I saw Velvet Buzzsaw.
How'd that go?
It's not as bad as people are saying, but it's not good either.
I was gonna recommend that about 4 weeks ago.
I'm glad you didn't, just because it's not something I really have much to say about. It's just not. I wish it was. It didn't know which way it wanted to go. If it wanted to go psychological thriller or straight horror. Mm-hmm. It was too much in the middle, and I wish it kind of picked a side. Because what happened in it was paranormal, but then they were just like, I don't know. It didn't focus on it enough. It just didn't choose. And directed by Dan Gilroy, who did Nightcrawler, also with Jake Gyllenhaal. So I was a little disappointed as far as that goes. But
I'd say it's really hard to follow up with that movie in the first place, too.
I have to see Nightcrawler again. I haven't seen it since it was in theaters. I don't remember being too impressed, but I was also really tired when I watched it. Yeah. So who knows?
I loved it.
A lot of people did, so that's why.
But then again, we're in the same boat currently with what I picked this time.
And then we have Gloria Bell, which was directed by Sebastian Lelio and starring Julianne Moore. It's an A24 movie. It's not bad. It's way better than Spring Breakers, but I am not the crowd that it's meant for. It's about a middle-aged woman trying to take back her life in a way.
That's not the crowd for you?
Yes, I mean, it was decent. I acknowledge that it had good acting and everything, but I couldn't care about anything going on as it. So this is kind of boring, but well made, all that. Then I saw Hotel Mumbai, which is directed by Anthony Maras, starring Dev Patel, Armandang Singh, a bunch of other people who I can't pronounce, Armie Hammer, who I can't pronounce, and others. And it's about the true event in which terrorists took over the Taj Hotel in Mumbai and killed a bunch of people. Right. I didn't know going into it that it was based on a true story, and got really depressed when I found out it was based on a true story because it was kind of sad.
Well, you played yourself.
Yeah, I played myself. But Dev Patel's fantastic in it. It's probably one of his best performances.
He usually is most of the time, too.
Yeah. When he was younger, he was kind of, he was inconsistent. But he, in the past 5 or 6 years, he's been really consistent. I don't want to use the word consistent
stepping
again,
it up.
But I could. Exactly, stepping it up. But other than our 2 movies for this week, that's all I saw.
Look at you go.
But yeah, you and I discussed before, we don't have much to say about these, so this may be a shorter episode. We're a bit delayed here in the week.
Although this may be an interesting one because we are conflicting about one of the movies.
We are conflicted.
Why did I say it like that?
We are
conflicting.
We are conflicting about the one of them, and maybe even both of them. Who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, this may be a short episode, but every time we say that, it seems to be a long episode, so we'll find out. But let's get into it. Let's get into 1922.
1922, a man's pride was a man's land. And so was his son. My wife, she wanted us to leave all this behind.
We can move.
Cities are for fools.
We divorce. We both know that's what you want. Life is rarely fair, especially out here.
And I believe that there's another man inside every man. A conniving man.
I'm gonna sell. You, my son, are coming with me.
This is our house. In 1922, I murdered my wife.
Directed by Zach Hilditch and written by Zach Hilditch, based on the novella by Stephen King. 1922 tells the story of a simple yet proud farmer in the year 1922 who conspires to murder his wife for financial gain, convincing his teenage son to assist, but their actions have unintended consequences. It's starring Thomas Jane, Molly Parker, Dylan Schmid, Caitlin Bernard, and Neil McDonough. Usually we only do like 4, but Neil McDonough's in there. I felt like he deserved a shout out.
It was a weird surprise.
Yeah, he's always been one of those good actors. He's a good character actor. You know, he never takes over a scene, but he
when he steps in, you're like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, he's very very good as like a side character. He doesn't overshadow anyone. But this movie was it was a hard okay.
Seriously, I've never heard truer words in my life.
Like it's really not bad, but there's nothing there that really amazes. There's sequences that I thought were really cool, and I wish they explored more. But the overall story is, it's kind of typical. Husband kills wife kind of haunts. At least psychologically, you don't know if it's paranormal or just his guilt getting to him.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of his guilt.
Yeah. The one thing I thought was really interesting about it was the son's side story of when he leaves with his girlfriend, his pregnant girlfriend, because the guilt is like too much for him, and also he doesn't want to leave his pregnant girlfriend's her parents are trying to threaten her to go to like a nunnery to have the kid, and he doesn't want to be without her. So they kind of just run away and become kind of a Bonnie and Clyde type situation.
And that part was really interesting because I thought they were setting up for like an actual Bonnie and Clyde. I'm like, ooh, okay, a little twist. I like that. Okay. And then some things happen where they're dead.
Yeah.
Just like, wow. Okay.
Honestly, that was probably my favorite part of the entire movie. Again, not that the movie's bad, but that part really grabbed my attention. It was something that I wasn't expecting. I really think that both Dylan Schmid and Caitlin Bernard, who played Hannon and Hannon, that's their relationship name. Henry and Shannon, respectively. They did a really good job, especially when they're kind of in over their heads and running away from people who are trying to kill them, essentially, and just trying to seek shelter in the middle of winter. I thought that was a really compelling scene.
And the best part is it's only like a 5-minute scene too, if that.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been good if they stretched it out. Yeah. But as that 5-minute sequence, it was really, really cool. Especially, I did like how it was kind of the haunting of Thomas Jane's wife, played by Molly Parker, like she was telling him that it happened before he could possibly know that it happened.
Have even known about it, yeah.
Yeah, so that whole thing was kind of cool, you know, being haunted by his wife with the truth of where his son is at because of the mistakes that they made and everything. So again, there's a lot of little interesting parts to this film, but I feel as a whole it kind of falls flat.
Yeah, this just is more or less just feels like a movie you just put on for the sake of putting on.
Yeah.
Because personally, I wouldn't have just put this on to actually watch it. In fact, I literally haven't this whole time. It's been up on Netflix.
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot. I'm like, oh, I like Thomas Jane, but the poster for it is real goddamn boring.
Yeah. I would say it's more interesting than the poster lets on.
Because the poster's just him in a cornfield with a bloody hand.
Yeah.
And 1922.
I feel like they could have done better for the poster. It kind of felt like an afterthought.
I think even my cousin saw it and was like, man, it's pretty okay. I'm like, all right, so we're not going to watch it.
It's a hard okay.
I really like Thomas Jane, too, like more than the usual person.
Yeah, I mean, he's in The Mist, right?
Yeah, he's in The Mist.
He's fantastic in The Mist.
See, the problem with that is also his first film I've ever seen him in was The Punisher, so I can never just not see him as The Punisher.
I was lucky enough to not see that until much later on, but
so that's one of the first films that actually got me into like the Marvel thing. But
that's the first one, right? Not the second.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, the first Punisher is actually a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it. But you know, this is the most I've ever seen him, for lack of a better word, act.
Yes.
Like he's got a pretty thick accent on.
And he doesn't change it at all throughout the whole time.
Like it's very consistent. He's staying in character.
There's
essentially.
that word again.
Well, consistent? Yeah. He's staying in character the whole time. There's no real slip-ups, really. And we just keep doing a great job of having animals die in movies.
Seriously.
I feel like, what are we on, like a 4 or 5 week run now where animals die in movies?
We're definitely not meaning to here, but...
Yeah. It makes me sad every time. But yeah, Thomas Jane really impressed me with his performance. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And he really, as terrible as it sounds, when you have a movie like this, you need the main character. You need to have the audience on the main character's side, no matter how terrible what he's about to do is.
Yeah.
And right or wrong in the argument, not in the murder, he was definitely wrong in the murder. Right or wrong in the argument with his wife, you really sided with him.
Yeah, because it's pretty much kind of just very one-sided for her. She's just like, I want to go to the city. And it's kind of just very abrupt and just happened instead of a lengthy time of talking about it or anything.
Yeah, which
she's
I think,
I want to go.
I think that was a smart move on the director's part to make it seem like she was selfish.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, Thomas Jane, as little as it might be, he tries to work with her at first, and then, you know, kind of...
He even goes, you know, try to sell me the land if you want, and then you guys can do your thing. She's just like, no.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it really kind of puts you on the bad guy's side, even though he's the protagonist, quote unquote. I think they also did a really good job at you know, symbolism and thematic elements. Like with the first time he really sees his wife's corpse after she's dumped in the well, you see the rat coming out of her mouth, and then the rat is just a consistent, you know, kind of like in the Telltale Heart, it's kind of like the heartbeat where like he keeps hearing rats.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really kind of brilliant in a way. I don't know if that's in the Stephen King's novella or if that's just part of the screenplay, but having the rats be a constant and
yeah, just like a consistent haunting for him.
Yeah, and getting more and more intense as it goes on, you know, starting from like one rat, harming his cattle to being a swarm of rat trying to break out of the walls. It was just really interesting symbolism that I really enjoyed and thought it was a nice little touch. The way this film is made really intrigues me, but the story overall definitely could use some work.
The worst part is that's all there really is.
Yeah.
Like that's how hard of an okay it is. Like there's not too much to talk about.
The hardest of okays is the hardest to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to do what you've been doing. Lately, I've been writing less notes, but this time I didn't write any notes.
Yeah.
That might be why I
did
don't
want
have
to
much
write
to say,
notes
but-
about Mr. Nobody, but I didn't even do that.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody, I kind of halfway through, I kind of wish I had been writing notes just because there was so much going on. But yeah, 1922, again, don't have too much to say. This is going to be a real short episode, more likely. But, you know, this is going to happen from time to time. We're going to have, there's going to be movies.
So, you know how I just said that I can't see Thomas Jane as anything else, really, other than, like, The Punisher. Mm-hmm. All right, you know the Ernest movies?
Yeah.
That's all I could picture the whole time for Thomas Jane's character was just that Ernest character.
It's the hair.
Well, it's also he talked with his teeth at some points too, and I was like, ooh,
yeah.
So like, I just looked up a picture of his. That's all I could picture throughout the whole movie. Punisher and Ernest combined. Let that sit in your head. Thank you, Thomas Jane, for giving me that little imagery. I love it.
Want glass of lemonade, Sheriff?
Can I look in the house?
She only took the one suitcase.
Woman, that'd be crazy to leave a nice house like this one.
The very thought of you, the longing here for you. I'm living in a kind of daydream.
You touched me!
I'm happy as a king.
You cursed it all!
I see your face.
I hope there is no God, because if there is no heaven, and there is no hell.
The very thought of you, my love.
Let's move on to Mr. Nobody.
Can you tell me how old you are? I'm 34. I was born February 9th, 1975. Who are you? I'm Mr. Nobody, a man who doesn't exist.
We don't know who Mr. Nobody is. Neither does he. Our patient's memories are confused.
So, Nemo, have you made up your mind? Do you want to come with me, or do you want to stay with your father? We cannot go back. That's why it's hard to choose.
Nemo!
You have to make the right choice. As long as you don't choose, everything remains possible.
Mr. Nobody, directed by Jacques Van Dormael. I would assume that's how you pronounce it. Written by Jacques Van Dormael. Stars Jared Leto, Sarah Pauli, and Diane Kruger. And there's a couple other people in there, but let's just get into the synopsis, shall we? A boy stands on a station platform as a train is about to leave. Should he go with his mother or stay with his father? Infinite possibilities arise from this decision. As long as he doesn't choose, anything is possible.
Full disclosure, we both watched, or at least I'm fairly certain that you watched the theatrical version. Fun fact, we told you all, whoever is listening, that this was on Netflix. By the time I tried to watch it on Saturday, it was no longer on Netflix.
Yeah, when we were doing last week's podcast, it definitely said it was on, or at least I thought it said it was on Netflix.
The poster's still on there if you look in the right category.
Yeah.
But if you click on it, it doesn't play. So anyone that had to go to Amazon or iTunes, which I'm sure is not many people, if any at all, and rent it, we apologize. That's RBD.
But also, I did, since I believed you watched the director's cut. I also watched the director's cut.
We watched the theatrical version. The director's cut is a little longer, and the one that was on Netflix is 2 hours 19 minutes. And
I watched the director's cut just because I had already seen the theatrical version.
Okay.
So there was some stuff in there that I didn't need to be in there. So I'm glad you watched the theatrical version.
Yeah, the director's cut is like 20 minutes longer. About it looks like.
Yeah, it was not really nothing that like helped the story at all.
Yeah,
at least in my opinion. So kudos to you for picking the right one.
Yeah, I really the main reason I've been holding off watching this movie is the length. Just because it didn't seem interesting enough to warrant that kind of length. And boy, was I right.
Forgot.
Boy,
to be honest, I forgot it was that long, too.
For me, I was right. I mean, I know you enjoyed this movie. That's kind of why you recommended it. But tell me what you like about it. I'm curious to know.
I'm actually curious what you don't like about it first. And then I'll go into my spiel about it. I'll say my spiel about the length. I feel like you are right in the sense that it wasn't interesting enough for the length of time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was more the way they edited it.
Absolutely.
And they could have changed a little bit of the story in order for because I think it could have been a good 3-hour movie if it was done a little bit better in the sense.
Yeah. So as you know, and a few of our listeners may know just because they know me personally, I'm a filmmaker. I make films, nothing this long or of this high budget or anything, but I also edit quite a lot. And when you mentioned it could have been edited better, that is 100% the reason I did not like it.
Yeah.
I liked this story. I liked the idea. If there's one thing I can't forgive, it's bad editing or incoherent editing. I'm not saying that the editing is bad, but it's definitely incoherent. At least for the vast majority of the movie.
Because if you're not going in or not knowing what you're seeing going in, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, especially the way it's edited. So I will give you credit for that.
Yeah. And again, like I will not say that this is a bad movie. I'm sure there's enough people out there that like this kind of thing. Just my personal preference as someone who writes and edits and all that. The number one thing for me, no matter how avant-garde, how experimental a film is, it needs to be coherent. And this is so incoherent. There is literally a part where one of the characters says, "What is going on? You're contradicting yourself. This doesn't make any sense." And that is 100% correct. Like it was a kudos to them for having a very self-aware character in the movie. But I personally do not like when there is you hear Peanut? You hear Peanut? I personally don't like when a movie is incoherent. Yeah, that's really my biggest issue with it. I didn't really have a problem with any of the characters. I kind of wish they made his mom slightly more likable. I felt like it was very unforgiving to her.
They really kind of, not from the get-go, but like half an hour into the movie, they really were like, well, she's a cheating wife.
Yeah. Let's give her no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
And she's very mean to her kid, even though, yes, he is rebellious.
Yeah. But my whole thing, in both realities, or was it did the reality split when he was given that decision? I think that's the case. But regardless,
none of it was actual reality. It was all theoreticals, and like all different paths that he could have taken in life. And
I probably would really enjoy that story if it seemed like that story.
Yeah,
at all,
because they didn't really announce that until the very end.
Yeah, that is that's the kind of thing that needs to be stated at the beginning. Like
Because in a way they kind of did. I honestly I can't remember in the theatrical if they did, but there was a scene in the director's cut where there's angels like touching the kid, like the newborns' heads, like giving them permission to go to their families. And then Jared Leto's character wasn't touched, giving him the quote unquote power to see into the future. Was that in the theatrical?
It was.
Okay,
it was,
so they kind of say that he, like, that's kind of the plan this whole time, but they never actually, because it's all just different scenarios.
That I got, but it didn't really. It wasn't clear enough, really, for that to be at the forefront of your mind the entire film. It seemed like kind of like an afterthought, and again, like going back to like if he knows that his mom, this could just be me speaking personally. If I knew my mom was cheating on my dad, there's no universe where I would go with her.
Yeah.
Like if that kind of betrayal doesn't just go in a marriage. It's one thing to be told that, but if you see it like the child him sees, and there's no doubt in your mind that happened, there is no world where me personally at least would go with her. And again, that's not very fair to the mother character. Again, there's no redeeming qualities for her. She's just, there's nothing that would make anyone in their right mind stay with her when they have their father as an option.
Yeah.
Also, what kind of world is there a divorce where there isn't visiting rights between mother and father? Like even like once every few months or whatever. So I found that hard to believe. I don't come from a divorcort family, but I feel like that's just a legal thing. I know. A lot of people do. You're not alone.
Yeah. So what I assume was for the going with the mother thing, I guess they were kind of going the route of he's just a kid, just a 9-year-old kid. I mean, to a point, like you would still have obviously smart enough conscious decision to be like, well, my mother's shit. I wouldn't go with her. But I guess since they were doing the different path scenario state here, so that's what they did. And with the divorce thing, I feel like maybe they didn't really specify on it. I feel like they were just maybe avoiding court at all. So they were kind of just like, Nemo, do you want to go with your father or your mother? So I mean, I could see that.
But to have no visitation rights at all.
Well,
seems
there was visitation rights because he even states it in one of the scenarios where he stays with his father. Because Nemo's father even says like, why don't you try to contact your mother? He's like, well, she knows where I am. She can come see me if she really wants to.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Like, even in that world, she's has no redeemable quality. She doesn't make any effort to go see him. So in both the world that he chooses to go with her and the world that he does not, there's no reason to like her.
To be fair, in the mother's scenario, you don't see the father at all either. But they don't bash her or they don't bash him.
They don't bash him, and then he's a much more likable person in his reality.
Yeah.
Where
so pretty much the father made one like real mistake in this every scenario really before the divorce happened, and that's really his only unredeemable quality, and that's all they really.
What was the mistake again?
It's he didn't put the car in park. So the car went down the road and hit a mother and child, or hit the mother that was walking a child.
I don't remember that at all. Is that in the? That might not be in the theatrical version.
I could have sworn it was in the theatrical when I watched it on Netflix originally.
Okay.
Which, fun fact, I originally watched this when we were making The Mormons Are Coming.
Yeah.
Like it was that whole.
Yeah.
During that whole process.
That hot ass building.
That hot ass building.
I just really don't like the editing. I would love if Topher Grace could get his hands on it and re-edit the whole thing. Just not
I was like,
really
it's a
Topher
very
Grace,
specific person.
Well, he's been known to re-edit movies for his own viewing purposes.
Wow.
I forget which one he's most famous for, but yeah, he's done it before, so it's just a little joke. But yeah, it does not. It
does not hold up well because of the editing for you.
Yeah, and there's enough there for me to maybe one day watch the director's cut to see if it's any better. But
it's, to be honest with you, it's probably not.
Okay, it's just because I like the idea of alternate realities, but it can be told in a coherent way.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I am 100% on board with you there. But I feel like the story and the acting in most parts and everything like that, I feel like it redeems it enough for me.
Yeah.
Like I think, where an extent to where I understand 100% that you don't like it.
Yeah.
But for me, I really enjoyed the movie. I love the message that it was going for. I love that it made you think about everyday choices that you make and down the line, like what you should think about, like if this one thing happens and stuff like that, like the butterfly effect and all that.
Yeah, I definitely I appreciate that aspect of it. The acting is good. I had a problem with young Nemo being British, 30-year-old Nemo being American, and then old-ass Nemo having a southern accent for some reason.
My favorite part about you watching the movie the other day was you just sending me texts. I'm like, Mike, you gotta stop. We gotta save it for the podcast. God damn it! And you were even like, "Is this revenge for Spring Breakers?" I'm like, "No, stop. You gotta stop this."
It's not as bad as Spring Breakers.
Not
but
even
it's
close,
just,
but still, like I understood.
Like the editing made it feel so long that I would watch it, swear that at least a half hour had gone by, and it was only 7 minutes. So it felt like it took like 8 hours to watch this movie, even though it was only... We
were an hour and a half in, and it felt like 2 hours had passed. And I'm like, ooh, I'm getting sleepy.
Yeah, it's... I just really... I really wish it was edited differently.
Yeah. To explain my best, I think the British part of Nemo is that I think because when he went with his mother, I think he adopted like the New York accent.
Did he move to New York?
Years. Yeah. So when he went with his mother in those two scenarios, like there's two scenarios where he's talking like in a more American accent, because he's in America in New York.
But didn't Anna move to New York, and that's why they couldn't be together anymore?
Yes.
So they were both in New York.
No, they both. I think, shit, now I'm second guessing myself. I'm pretty sure that when he left with his mother, they went to New York, and then Anna had to move even somewhere else after that.
Okay.
Because even in like the scenario, they're living in the city, so I would assume the city would be New York.
Like I thought it was London for the longest time until Anna and her dad got into the car.
It's a very quick scene. Like they have like a scene with a plane, and then that's it.
Yeah. And that's another thing. You can't have quick scenes with giant things. Granted, I was not into this movie, so I could see me just missing things just by checking out briefly. Being lost in my thoughts.
And I've seen this movie like 3 or 4 times. So
okay. All right. Well, I'll trust you then.
Listen, I'm not even trusting you right now. I already forget. But I believe in two of the scenarios where he has a more American accent, he moved with his mother, so he adopted in the 6 years between the 9-year-old Nemo and the 15-year-old Nemo, he adopted that more American accent.
If that's the case, then that makes sense, but it's still just frustrating. The one thing I will say, I found it really interesting that old Nemo was the last man to die. It was kind of like reverse Children of Men.
Yeah.
Where the last man to have been born was popular and famous, and this the last man to die was famous in that. Mm-hmm. I like that. I also like that they kept mentioning of old age. Death can still happen. It just doesn't happen because of old age.
Yeah. because in the movie they achieve quasi immortality because of stem cell research or something like that.
Yeah. But it had a lot to be interesting and bring me in and out of the movie.
Yeah.
But then it kind of went on like a rambling old man, which I guess kind of fits the movie. Where you kind of, at least me personally, I checked out a lot, and then, it felt like it was 30 minutes, but it was only 7 minutes, and I really just wish it was edited differently. And that's not a knock on the editor, because the director has a lot to say about the editing
I was going to say,
as well.
it's more or less of probably a director's choice, especially since he wrote it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally, I love this movie. I 100% stand by you into where, for a normal person or yourself, the editing will most likely scare you off.
Yeah.
But I personally thought that the story and acting definitely held it together for me. It's why it's one of my favorite movies, to be honest, because it makes such a big impact, especially on such a huge decision for a child as a 9-year-old.
Yeah, that honestly, the fact that his parents made him choose is kind of fucked up. Like, I know you don't want to go in court, but like...
Yeah. And it's definitely not a choice that a kid should ever have, but it makes you, watching this movie, it makes you think, like, every single choice that you make has an impact, and they mention that a lot. What, like the butterfly effect, like a single snowflake could bend the bamboo's leaf or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like some man in Indonesia boiling an egg could mess up somebody's phone number that they just wrote and spill the ink everywhere. So I really love the message. And then there's some of the scenarios that more or less pissed me off, but I think as a whole, this movie, it stands to be one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, there's enough there where I can definitely see why you like it. And had I not gone in with such a technical mind, I might have enjoyed it more, but film school kind of ruined that for me. I can't watch any movie without analyzing it anymore. Mm-hmm. So,
like I said, I don't blame you, straight up. But I always recommend this movie to... Well, the problem with this movie is that it's no longer on Netflix, which really pisses me off. Yeah. When anybody ever asked me to recommend a movie, this would be the first one that I'd go for, even though I know it's a lot for the regular person. And they usually always like it. Obviously, this case, not as much. But, and
were you surprised that I don't like it?
Not surprised, but maybe surprised you didn't like it as hard as you did. I understood because of the editing, and like I knew that from the start that most likely you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was still gonna love it regardless, and I hope I at least changed your mind at least to it a little bit.
I think I definitely have a softer opinion of it. Like afterwards, it was like a real hard rating. Like I was real hard on it, but
I mean, I'm not here to change your mind on it. Like,
I mean,
if you're not gonna like a movie, you're not gonna like a movie.
Anyone that tries to change anyone's mind on a movie is kind of silly.
We explain that every time we do these podcasts, that we're not here to change your minds. We're just giving our opinion, and I hope that I at least made you a little bit soft. A little bit soft, you big teddy bear.
It was definitely ambitious, I'll give it that.
Yeah, and then obviously, I had just warned you to tell me, the soundtrack, I really did enjoy, because I feel like it used Mr. Sandman and really well. They used it a lot, but I feel like they used it well. Mm-hmm. And they also used Otis Redding's "For Your Precious Love" every time, like he met one of the girls he was going to fall in love and stuff like that. And man, after that movie, I have never been a bigger Otis Redding fan in my life. And it blew up tenfold. Me and Otis Redding are best buds now, even though rest in power. Anyway, that really...
You're friends with his corpse.
Anyway, that's all I've really got to say. Love the movie. Love you. What?
I love you too.
Sorry, I don't understand. Did you stay with your father or go with your mother?
Remember.
Hello, Nemo. I want you.
I want you too.
For as much as Anna and Nemo had consented together in holy wedlock, for as much as Elise and Nemo,
Jean and Nemo
have joined themselves to each other.
Everything that you say is contradictory. Of all those lives, which one is the right one?
Do you love me?
I couldn't live without you.
You're the first and last person I'll ever love.
I love you. I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid I haven't been alive enough.
So that'll do it for Mr. Nobody and 1922. We have come to the judgment section of this podcast where we decide whether or not this deserves to go on the KFR shelf. Let's start with 1922. Like we said, it's a hard okay. And for that, I don't think it deserves to go on the shelf.
And it's a hard okay if it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mr. Nobody, what's your judgment?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I've said that it's one of my favorite movies, but I think I already know where this is going, and it could be in a hard okay for staying with 1922, I guess.
So you want it on the shelf?
I want it on the shelf, but I know you're most likely not going to put it on the shelf.
I'm going to do something unprecedented right now.
Oh, yeah?
I still don't like the movie.
Yeah.
However, I know how I would feel if you hated one of my favorite movies. And, you know, overall, this is a collaborative podcast. We like to mix our tastes together.
I feel like, to justify it a little bit, I feel like the story and other things about the movie do justify it. The editing is the only thing that really ruined it.
So I'm going to say, just for you, and I hope you reciprocate this at some point, especially for a movie that I put in high regards, that I will say, yes, it will go on the shelf.
Okay. Wow, big surprises here at KFR.
Yeah, I was going to be a hard no, but, you talking about it so eloquently has changed my mind. I still, not about the movie, just about how we should perceive the shelf.
Yes. Okay.
Because while I know you wouldn't not put No Country for Old Men on the shelf, if you ever hated that movie, I would hope that you would reciprocate the
Well, Mike, I could see that you really like this movie, so you know what?
No, I don't. That's what I just said. I don't like the movie. I'm doing this for you,
later.
Glenn.
I'll give you a favor later. Don't worry. Wink, wink.
Anyway, 1922 does not make it on the shelf. Mr. Nobody gets an honorable mention for the shelf. We'll call it that. It's an honorable mention.
There we go.
I'll put that in the notes on the shelf as well. That way people don't think that I like it.
It'll be when all of the other ones are shelf boys. They're all Blu-rays. Mr. Nobody is just a regular DVD or VHS.
Regular DVD. I will. That's a good way to put it. This is not a Blu-ray. This is a regular DVD. Anyway, so yeah, one movie makes it onto the shelf this week. It's not a shelf boy. It's an honorable mention DVD. Mm-hmm. We got 2 more movies for next week. My movie, available on Netflix. Netflix sponsor us.
Please.
Is The Innocents, directed by Anne Fontaine. Got ourselves a female filmmaker here, which is great. It has 3 writers. Hold on a second. It is... I don't even know how to read who wrote this. It says the scenario is written by Sabrina B. Corinne and Alice Vial. The adaptation is by Anne Fontaine and Pascal Bonitzer. And it is based on the original concept by Philippe Ménil. So I don't know what that means, but that's what's going on. And it's starring Lou Delague, Agata Buzek, Agata Kulezeka.
It's always an interesting time listening to you pronounce words and names.
Bad. If you give me time, I'll get them. I'm not good at cold reading them. And then Vincent McConaughey.
I will give you credit. French isn't the easiest one to try to pronounce either.
And it tells a story. It just says 1945. Mathilde is a French Red Cross doctor working on a mission to help French survivors of the German camps. While she works in Poland, she is asked for help by a nun. In her convent, several nuns got pregnant. Ooh. I honestly had no idea that this is what this was about. I just saw the poster, said,
They are bad
that's an
girls."
interesting poster. I read a little bit. I read another synopsis where it might be forced pregnancy.
Okay. I didn't mean to laugh at that part, but
Yeah, no. I was trying to avoid the R word. But,
I was trying to, or I'm sitting here looking at the very, very vast difference of our movies. But okay.
I honestly had no idea. All I saw was the poster. I was like, that looks interesting.
Yeah,
That's literally all I
does.
did. So, so The Innocents is my movie for next week. Again, it's on Netflix. Netflix sponsor us.
Please.
And Glenn, what's your movie?
So I'm going to go an animated movie route.
Oh.
Well, to an extent, it is a live action movie, and then it's just got some small soldiers.
Oh, yes!
Directed by Joe Dante, written by Gavin Scott and Adam Rifkin. Stars Kirsten Dunst, Gregory Smith, David Cross. It's got Tommy Lee Jones in there.
Phil Hartman.
My God, Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman, rest in power. Oh, I love Phil Hartman.
So I guess the one
the
one similarity is is the soldiers, right? There's
Oh my
soldiers in
gosh.
it. Even though some are toys.
This might be what is going on?
This movie was huge for me in my childhood.
Oh, me too. I got a flat top when I was a kid because of this movie.
This is a lot of people's big movie.
Yeah.
This is going to be on Hulu, and you do not have to rent it. So it says it's on Prime Video now too, but I don't think so. It's definitely
I
on Hulu.
hope I have to rent it. I hope I have to throw money at it. Not really, but still. Did you go over the synopsis? I can't remember.
Small soldiers, for those who don't know, when missile technology is used to enhance toy action figures, the toys soon begin to take their battle programming too seriously.
Ooh.
Basically, it's Toy Story, except for, the toys don't dissipate back into toys when they're seen. They don't give a fuck in this movie.
They don't, but I'm excited. You're absolutely right. This is a very diverse episode coming up. I'm a little embarrassed to even share about this. They're not going to match at all sitting next to each other. But that'll do it for this week. Next week's movies are The Innocents and Small Soldiers. I can't say that with a straight face. As always, you can follow us on Instagram at Keystone_film_review. Facebook, we're Keystone Film Review. On Letterboxd, I am Mike KFR.
And I'm Glenn KFR.
And that will do it. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.